Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. So, if you live in the UK and you've been thinking about getting your private hire license, I can almost guarantee you've heard one specific city's name floating around: Wolverhampton. But why? Well, today we are completely demystifying the Wolverhampton licensing process. We're going to separate the myths from reality, and we'll look at the exact legal requirements, the vital safety rules, and, the insider knowledge you really need to get yourself out on the road. All right, let's run through our agenda real quick. First, why choose Wolverhampton? Then, checking your eligibility. After that, we'll look at medical and DBS checks, tackling the knowledge test, safety and safeguarding rules, and finally, essential rules for drivers. Okay, Section 1. Why choose Wolverhampton? Let's dive right in. Honestly, it comes down to two things: opportunity and efficiency. The source material points out that with a bit of hard work, some early morning starts, and a focus on busy hubs, places like airports, hospitals, or university towns, like Manchester, Birmingham, Leeds, Nottingham, Bradford, independent drivers can comfortably pull in around £20 an hour. And because Wolverhampton's licensing process is known for being super streamlined and accessible, as long as you have basic English and a good grasp of the rules, it's just an incredibly attractive route to building a really solid income. But here is the real game changer: the UK cross-border hiring law. Basically, this law states that you are no longer required to live and work in the exact same area where you get your license, meaning you can apply for your private hire badge through Wolverhampton, but you have the complete freedom to work as an independent driver in entirely different cities across the UK. You just have to make sure you're operating under the correct private hire conditions. Moving on to Section 2, checking your eligibility. Let's look at the basic requirements. So, there are 5 mandatory pillars you absolutely must clear before you start earning. First up, you have to prove your right to work legally in the UK. You'll need specific documents for this, like your passport, your national insurance number, and recent utility bills for proof of address, just to ensure there aren't any visa restrictions on your working hours. After that, you need a clean driving license, a DBS background check, medical clearance, and, of course, the big one, the knowledge test. Now, regarding your UK driving license, the absolutely crucial point here is that it must be completely, flawlessly clean. It is not enough to just know how to drive, right? You must have held your UK license for a minimum of 1 year, and there can be absolutely 0 motoring convictions or penalty points on it. The council cross-references this directly with DVLA requirements, so if you have points on your license, you literally just cannot apply. All right, Section 3, medical and DBS checks, ensuring you're safe for the road. You are going to need a medical certificate confirming your fitness to drive. Practically, this means booking an appointment with your GP or an approved private doctor who will run a Group 2 medical standard check on you. They're going to test your eyesight, check your physical movements, take your blood pressure, and screen for conditions like diabetes. Essentially, they just need to make absolutely sure you have no medical issues that would make you unsafe behind the wheel. And right alongside your physical health, you have to prove your legal background is completely clear by passing an enhanced DBS. That's a deep-level criminal record check. The council needs to be 100% certain you have no history of major offenses. And actually, this isn't just a one-and-done deal. You are required to undergo this check every 3 years. Most drivers manage this by subscribing to the DBS update service to easily maintain their license. Which brings us to Section 4, tackling the knowledge test. Kind of the final boss of the application. So, the test is actually split into 2 distinct parts. First off, please don't panic about the English writing test. Seriously, there are no essays, no complex spelling tests. They simply want to know that you can understand spoken English and write it down. You'll get a printed receipt template. An instructor will call out a scenario, like, say, a journey from Manchester to Luton for £460, and you just fill those exact details into the correct boxes. That's it. After that, you have a strict 30-minute time limit to tackle a 28-question computer-based theory test covering taxi laws, the highway code, and vehicle conditions. For that multiple-choice section, 21 is your magic number. You have to get at least 21 out of the 28 questions correct to pass. Sounds doable, right? Well, there is a massive, incredibly important catch to this scoring system. You have to realize just how strict the safeguarding rules are here. Out of those 28 questions, 8 of them will be printed in bold text. These are the critical safety and safeguarding questions. If you get even one, literally just one, of these bold questions wrong, it is an instant automatic failure of the entire test, even if you got every single other question perfectly correct. So let's look at Section 5, safety and safeguarding rules, and put your knowledge to the test. Let's test you on a real mock question right now. If a passenger has a disability and is accompanied by an assistance or guide dog, under what circumstances are you allowed to charge them an extra fee for the animal? Take a guess. The answer is absolutely, categorically, never. Under equality laws, guide and assistance dogs always travel for free. You must allow them into your vehicle without any hesitation or discrimination whatsoever. Now, there is one very specific exception. If you personally hold a specialized medical exemption certificate from the council, say for severe dog allergy. But other than that, refusing an assistance dog is a direct, serious breach of your license. Okay, here's another real scenario for you. What is your primary responsibility when dealing with vulnerable road users, like cyclists and pedestrians, or passengers with disabilities? And keep in mind that includes invisible disabilities, like hearing impairments, or conditions like cerebral palsy. Your primary job, above all else, is ensuring absolute safety and equal access for everyone. Out on the road, this means slowing down at crosswalks and always prioritizing the safety of pedestrians and cyclists over your own convenience. When it comes to disabled passengers, you have to communicate respectfully. Actively ask them how you can best assist and never ever rush them just to save yourself a few minutes. And crucially, you must only ever touch or physically assist a passenger if you have their explicit direct consent. All right, last up, Section 6. Essential rules for drivers. How to operate legally once you're on the road. Remember, you're applying for a private hire vehicle, or PHV license. That is entirely different from a hackney carriage. As a private hire driver, you're strictly allowed to take pre-booked journeys only. Every single job must come through a licensed operator base. You cannot wait on taxi ranks, and you absolutely cannot cruise the streets looking for customers outside pubs or clubs. If a random member of the public flags you down without a booking and you take them, your insurance is instantly invalid. And under the council's 3-strike policy, you risk having your badge completely suspended or revoked. The council also demands absolute transparency. You really have to memorize these strict deadlines to protect your livelihood. Check this out. If your vehicle is in an accident that affects its safety or its appearance, you've got exactly 72 hours to report it. If you move to a new house, you have just 7 days to notify the council. And if you receive any convictions or fixed penalties, you have to report those within 14 days. Don't mess around with these deadlines. So what actually happens after you pass the test and prove your eligibility? Well, you upload all your documents online, and then you're looking at about a 6 to 8 week processing wait. Once you're approved, you receive your license. You get your vehicle and insurance sorted, mount your plates and badges, and boom, you are officially ready to hit the road in any UK city you choose to operate in. I want to wrap things up with this fantastic piece of advice directly from our source material. Always look after your customer and look after your base owner. At the end of the day, building strong, reliable relationships is the true key to a great income in this business. You now know the strict standards, you know the cross-border freedoms, and you know those zero-tolerance safeguarding rules. So the real question is, are you truly ready to shoulder the immense responsibility of passenger safety, or does the weight of that badge feel a little too heavy?